This video is prepared to explain how positioning moves are adjusted in Monospost Developer. Positioning is the most important feature of our post editor, and this can easily be adjusted inside Action Linear Motion. We use positioning term for two different cases. First type of positioning is between one operation end to the next operation start. And we name this as operation start positioning. This positioning can be in two different forms. One is home return positioning, the other one is simultaneous positioning. Depending on your selections and the amount of rotary changes, either one of these two positioning styles will be active at each operation start. This means home return and simultaneous positioning can be seen in the same NC program. Second type is the positioning inside of an operation. For instance, approach and retract motions from one cutting pass to the next inside of the same operation is of second type. Like operation start positioning, this motion can be adjusted either as home return or simultaneous positioning. Let's look at the parameters we use for the first type, positioning at operation start. These two parameters are used to define maximum allowable rotary axis changes between operations. And these below two other parameters are used to define the same limits for the second type, positioning inside of an operation. In general, we use rotary 1 term for tilting axis, for instance, A or B axis. And we use rotary 2 term for rotary table, and this is C axis in vertical, and B axis in horizontal machines. C axis of rotary heads is also of type rotary 2. As a result, these are the four important values that directly affect how positioning moves are created. Let's look at an example for positioning at operation start. I will first generate an NC program by defining 0 for the limiting values, both for rotary 1 and rotary 2. This time, I will regenerate the NC program with 30 degrees limiting values for both. When we compare the two NC programs, we can see that the positioning style is different in two cases. The tool retracts home at operation start in the first case, since we define 0 as maximum allowable rotary change. In the second case, the cutting tool doesn't retract home, instead, a simultaneous movement is generated in G43.4 mode. Let's look at the rotary axis values at the previous operation. They are A-15 and C180. And the next operation values are approximately A-13 and C199. The change amount for A-axis is approximately 2 degrees, and C-axis change is less than 20 degrees. These change amounts are both higher than the 0 limiting value we've defined for the first case. Therefore, Monospost Developer generates a G53 home return line. However, these change amounts are lower than the 30 degrees limit we've defined for the second case. Therefore, Monospost Developer generates a simultaneous positioning move. As you will understand, you can define different limiting values for rotary 1 and 2. If one rotary change amount is higher than the limit we've defined, the tool retracts home instead of simultaneous positioning. Let's now look at how these two parameters, which are used for positioning inside of an operation, affect the NC output. I will again adjust these two parameters as 30 degrees. I will regenerate the NC program now. Let's compare the result with the previous NC program, where we've defined 0 for limits. The left side is showing the NC program with 0 limits, and the right side has 30 degrees limiting values. What we use here to compare is a drilling operation with drilling holes on two different angular surfaces. First drilling is performed at A-15, C180. Second is performed approximately at A-13, C199. These two hole drillings are inside the same drilling operation. In the first case, where limiting values are defined as 0, the tool retracts home with G53 line. In the second case, home retract moves are converted to simultaneous positioning, since the amount of rotary axis changes are lower than our limiting values, which we've entered as 30 degrees. Let's now see the effect of activate home return at each operation start. As you will understand from the statement, if you select this as true, all positioning moves at operation start will be converted to home returns, regardless of the values you have entered as limiting values. Let's see the effect in the previous example. I will select true and will regenerate the NC program. As you can see, although I have a limiting value for rotary 1 and 2, all positioning moves are converted to home returns. Let's now see the next parameter. Always start positioning with rapid move. In some cases, you will see that the positioning moves are performed with G1 cutting moves. If you want all your positioning to be performed in rapid mode, just select this parameter as true. I will show you how this affects the output. I will regenerate the NC program after selecting this parameter as true. Let's compare the result with the original NC program. You can see G1 positioning moves are converted to G0, regardless of what you've defined in the CAM program. The last parameter of positioning is cutting mode selection. Before watching this part of the video, I recommend you to watch Cutting Modes. Cutting Modes video describes in detail what cutting modes are, and for what purposes they are used. Cutting mode selection is only needed for home return positioning. When simultaneous positioning is active, cutting mode selection has no effect, since cutting mode is automatically set to TCPC in that case. Just have a look at an example. These positioning lines are home return type. When home return positioning is active, Monospos developer algorithms enter two different commands in order, as we've talked before. First is the go to safe position. And second is the positioning at safe position. This is where the positioning cutting mode comes into effect. As you can see in the code, G68.2 is used inside positioning. And positioning X, Y and Z words are written in the command. Here, special positioning plain words are used to calculate the correct X, Y and Z values. And these positioning plain words are directly affected by the cutting mode selected for positioning. In more general terms, the words starting with positioning in their names are directly affected by the cutting mode selected for positioning. And in this example, since we use G68.2 mode, we have to select plain as our positioning cutting mode. For instance, if we wanted to use G43.4 mode for positioning, we should choose TCPC instead of plain. And we also have to change the positioning command accordingly. Let's go back to positioning at safe position command to make that change. You can easily navigate to this command using NC Analyze view. I will delete and rewrite the command. Since we've selected TCPC cutting mode for positioning, I first add G43.4. I add command type word in order to write G0 or G1 in the NC output. Be careful, instead of positioning plain words, this time I have to use positioning TCPC words. I will add the other words now. That's it. Now, you have TCPC positioning, instead of plain positioning. Keep in mind that, this is just a sample. We do not recommend to change the positioning types, unless you have a problem with the predefined positioning styles. When simultaneous positioning is active, cutting mode selection has no effect, since cutting mode is automatically set to TCPC in that case.